Hey guys, and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I wanted to talk about the flight model and flight balance for the next patch, but also for the future of Star Citizen for the game. More focusing on SCM speeds, Afterburner and cruise speeds and that sort of stuff. The general flight balance and flight model has changed a huge amount over the last 12 months. Tyler Whitkin recently talked about flight balance on Device the Verse, and it's appeared everywhere. It's on the schedule report, all that sort of jazz. It's a hot topic, and it has been for a while. And it's very, very, very important. So in 2.6.1, there's going to be a lot of changes with the flight model again. Ships are going to have a much more varying speed based on their roles. So racers and smaller ships are likely to have fast SCM speeds, larger non-combat ships like the Starfarer, slower SCM speeds. Cruise speeds are still bound to using Afterburner, and fuel for that will be much more managed. So it was going to be a lot more important. It's going to require a lot more skill to use it correctly, otherwise you're going to run out. This is also going to be juxtaposed to the SCM speeds, where larger ships might have much faster cruise speeds, or the max afterburn speed, basically, than smaller ships can obtain. Obviously, that might be different per ship, and in fact will be different per ship, including regeneration rates and all that sort of stuff, and we'll come to that in a bit. Again, in 2.6.1, they are making weapon pips as well more normalised with each other, so combat will be more suited to more weapon combinations as pips get closer together. It is changing the skill curve to make the skill curve for SCM dogfighting much more simpler, basically much more accessible, and this is going to be polarize people in different ways. And again, we'll talk more about that in a second. Combat-wise, though, Star Citizen is a pretty game. And the nature of combat is supposed to be up close and visceral. That's the kind of combat they're going for. They don't want you to be fighting over a kilometre away where you're targeting a dot as a dogfighter. At least, as I said, for dogfighting, it's supposed to be visceral and close. It's worth understanding that some ships want to engage at a long range. They're going to have long-range weapons, they might have missiles or torpedoes or something that are longer range, or they might have railguns which are longer range. Also, some ships are going to be built for more jousting, although that jousting has been reduced significantly. The reduction in SCM speeds, though, do help bring combat into a much closer range and allows you to see damage that you are inflicting on your opponent. You can see the prettiness of Star Citizen, and that's kind of what we want. We want that Wing Commander feel. You can feel when a pilot is on your tail as well, and eventually for engaging larger ships you're going to be able to more accurately target individual subsystems and hardpoints by having these slower SCM speeds than were original. Now this could change entirely, and again we will talk more about that in a second. Racing. So keep in mind we are talking about the near future and probably the rest of the future of the flight balance for this year, with some other bits and bobs. So racing. Combat isn't the only thing that flight speeds are important for. Racing changes it massively, but it's easier to tweak racing ships for the purposes of racing because they don't require that weapon balance in the same way. I really like the idea that certain races are going to be better for certain tracks, or at least certain parts of tracks, based on their fuel management and agility, and not just their max speed and acceleration. For that reason, I feel that cruise speed afterburners in racing, so that's literally using the afterburner to get up to your cruise speed, which is effectively being merged with SCM, is a fantastic addition to racing. It adds another level to racing, and racing is much more fun, and even something that I enjoy now. Moreover, speeds of ships in SCM and cruise will affect cargo ships. How, in general, you can make UEC quickly, or that sort of stuff. Cargo ships, with their speeds, they're going to be using to get away from combat. They might use them for combat as well, but on a dry run, without any kind of assume that nothing is attacking them, they're going to be able to make money faster, the faster their SCM and cruise speeds are, that sort of stuff. So that kind of balance will be important, but isn't important at the moment when those mechanics aren't in game, and people very much focus on Arena Commander and the kind of areas of the game that we can play. Interdiction as well. So interdiction is going to be an important mechanic in the future. It literally pulls people out of quantum drive. Now, at the moment, we don't have that, so people can just quantum drive away. But in the future, you can be pulled out of quantum drive, and pirates will want to try and kill you. There needs to be a mechanic where both players have a chance of success in this circumstance. Obviously, planning needs to be considered of the party that pull people out, but there might be some forms of mitigation people can do to prevent them being quantum drive, and also their ship speed, their how fast they are in SCM, how fast they are in cruise. All that sort of stuff is going to be incredibly important. Boost and Afterburner. As I briefly mentioned earlier, the management of Afterburner and boost fuel needs to be important for flight mechanics to work. Its regeneration rate can't be too high, so that you can use it to constantly, but it can't be too low that it takes you minutes and minutes and minutes to regenerate. Again, top speeds using Afterburner will be different based on the roles of the ship, but also the components those ships have. And that's an important thing. Customization. We don't have full customizations of ships yet. With Item System 2.0 and a more fleshed out game mechanics, we're going to get more and more and more customization. So flight balance will change heavily and possibly become more manageable with more customization and choices of equipment. Engines and other systems on ships, all that sort of stuff is going to really affect what those ships can do. So you're going to have engines for different purposes, whether that's a top SCM speed, top afterburner speed, acceleration, stealth emissions, more boost fuel for equipment. Certain engines might mean that you don't have enough power to power your weapons, or maybe you generate huge amounts of heat on your ship. This kind of choice will gear your ship for particular purposes. The current hull equals role flight model doesn't reflect that yet. We're going to be able to change the roles of ships. We're going to be able to gear ships into specific roles with customization. And that means the flight mechanics that we have at the moment, the balance of that will not necessarily be as important for hulls, and certainly won't be considered in the same way that we look at it now. Controllers as well. So HOTAS, mouse and keyboard, dual stick, gamepad, whatever your controller choice, the flight model has a direct effect on how your controller is used and how effective it is in certain metas. Some changes are more suitable for mouse and keyboard setups, whereas others might be for HOTAS. Here, it is important that balance is kind of kept at a level of balance in some way so that one controller doesn't become incredibly powerful compared to another. So just kind of all controller types need to be kept in mind, in my opinion. CIG have tried giving fixed weapon hardpoints larger sizes, in some cases to help balance against gimbals, for example. As a regular mouse user myself, I feel that in faster flight models, where the SCM speed is a lot faster, gimbals are much more effective than they are in a slower model, but that is just my opinion. Obviously, some people love the idea of controller agnosticism and being controller agnostic. There's lots of ways they can do this, as long as they keep it in mind that changing any of the numbers for ships or weapons does affect the whole controller. And that's another thing. Weapons are constantly going to be changed. The flight balance is constantly going to be changed. Flight balance will continue to receive changes to individual ships, but also to the core mechanics until it feels right and polished. And even after the game's full release in the future, it is likely to receive small updates from time to time. New weapons, new ships, and even new equipment will, and well, may and will, affect the meta and game balance, and in some cases will warrant those small flight changes. Whether you're a cargo hauler, fighter pilot, captain of a capital ship, or just riding around on a dragonfly, flight balance for a large portion of the player base will make or break this game. It's what a lot of people wanted. It's the spaceship combat, it's the flying around, doing your whatever you want to in space. The other mechanics, planetary landing and the first-person shooter module, are amazing, but it's that element of spacecraft for a lot of people that is important. And it's important that everyone has their say in a constructive matter. As backers of this alpha at the moment, we have the ability to influence things. So we should share our opinions. We should test out all the ships. We should look at stuff and give feedback. And that's what I enjoy about this process. I suggest that you try every patch that comes out and give feedback in the appropriate forum section on the RSI website with what you like, what you don't like, and possible suggestions. And look at other people's statements and see what they've said and see if you can incorporate their ideas into your own, and just be civil. Constructive and civil. At the moment, while only we have only the like limited PU, and the Persistent Universe, and Arena Commander to fly your ships in. Arena Commander is kind of going to be that gold standard for balance that may be appropriate for the moment, but won't be appropriate once we have that larger PU and various ship customization that allows us to do lots of different roles for our ship. We might want a stealthy ship. We might want a ship that is really good for boost fuel for some reason. We might want to do something crazy like have really fast SCM speeds. We might be using a ship for a boarding ship or something. We might totally change its role. This will always be in flux, or at least be in flux for a while, these changes, these customizations, and the flight model in general. So your feedback is super important. I will probably use your comments that you give here to create some more videos and influence my feedback to Star Citizen, to CIG, about flight balance from patch to patch. So please share your opinions about what you'd like to see, but also once we have 2.6.1 or in future like updates, leave your feedback here too. Every month, commenting gives you a chance to win a ship. For February, it is again an Avenger Titan. For rules and more info on previous winners, and all the other kind of stuff, check the description below. There is a link there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Tell me what you think about the flight balance, and I will see you in the verse.